Listen. Practice. Speak. Practice makes you perfect.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating set of business conversations. Yeah, it's almost like getting a fly-on-the-wall perspective, seeing how professionals navigate their day-to-day challenges.
Exactly. What we've got is this collection of dialogues, right? Originally for learning business English, but our mission here in this deep dive is to look beyond just the language.
Right.
We really want to pull out the core strategies and, well, the insights into effective workplace communication, problem solving, across all sorts of different business functions.
Yeah, it's definitely not just about memorizing phrases.
Mhm.
The real gold, I think, is understanding the mindset. The step-by-step approaches these successful people use when they're tackling common issues. We're aiming for those aha moments, the ones that can, boost your effectiveness at work, whatever your field is. Okay, so let's jump into our first conversation. This one's all about nailing down project timelines and what exactly needs to be delivered.
So the main challenge here is getting that timeline clear before anyone really commits to the specific deliverables. And what's immediately striking is how the conversation, well, it steers towards concrete actions right from the very start.
Precisely. They don't just say, oh, we need this done by X date. No, they really emphasize confirming the specific milestones. It's about defining that kickoff date and really mapping out those critical dependencies. Laying a solid groundwork, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And that proactive element is just key. The fact that one person has already put together a preliminary task and resource allocation chart, that shows fantastic foresight. And it really accelerates the whole clarification process.
Yeah, gets things moving.
And providing that quick feedback on shared documents is also just vital for keeping things, well, efficient.
Okay, and here's where it gets really interesting, I think. They then bring up potential budget constraints.
Yeah.
And it's not like an afterthought, right?
Not at all.
It's right there, early on, acknowledged as this factor that could shape the entire project.
Exactly. And their response isn't just, okay, well, these are the limits. They actively explore how they could potentially streamline activities to, stay within budget, suggesting maybe cutting optional features, but making sure they maintain that core performance. It's a really smart focus on value, making those strategic trade-offs.
And to prevent any disappointments down the road, they make sure to confirm exactly what the users need. They even schedule a feedback session with them. This early effort, this refining the scope, you could really save them from major revisions later, couldn't it?
Definitely. Then we see the importance of those internal sign-offs, like getting immediate departmental approval once those deliverables are finalized and coordinating with management to avoid any unnecessary holdups. It's all about keeping that momentum going.
Right. And the commitment to presenting a sort of united plan and then following up promptly without delay. That really stands out. It speaks to accountability, I think, and respecting everyone's time. And they clearly get that getting timely approval keeps the whole development cycle running smoothly.
Yeah, it's crucial. The conversation then loops back to that critical aspect of quality assurance, confirming the specific protocols they'll use and scheduling a dedicated meeting just to hash out the testing requirements. Defining those crystal clear criteria for what counts as acceptance and having thorough verification processes, well, that's essential for a successful outcome.
And they don't treat these elements in isolation, do they? They make sure to finalize all the nitty-gritty specifics right alongside any adjustments to the timeline. It's all interconnected, isn't it?
Precisely. Then we see the practical next steps, updating the main project file, circulating a revised draft of the contract. But what's particularly insightful, I think, for anyone managing projects is that they include this brief note about how often the teams will communicate like mandatory weekly check-ins, but with the option for daily updates if needed.
That detail about communication frequency is so telling, isn't it? As they point out, consistent communication is just such a powerful way to mitigate risks, handle any unexpected changes that might pop up.
For sure.
It fosters stronger collaboration and just make sure everyone is on the same page about the overall strategic goals.
And they wrap things up by confirming the absolute deadline for the final revisions, to meet that all-important launch window. They emphasize the need for an expedited review process that aligns with the company's guidelines. So the final steps are finalizing the agreement and then getting the implementation underway immediately.
So what does this all boil down to for you? The big takeaway from this first conversation, I think, is just the vital role of proactive planning, crystal clear communication, and really thinking ahead about potential problems in any project. Notice how they move from those high-level objectives right down to very specific, actionable steps.
Right. Okay, our next conversation takes us into the realm of finance, specifically reviewing departmental expenses and trying to pinpoint the major drivers of those costs. So the initial challenge is simply understanding, where is the money going?
And they quickly identify labor costs, what they're paying vendors, and software licensing fees as the big ones. It's about identifying those significant spending categories first. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And what follows is this really crucial analysis of their current spending in relation to how much revenue they're projecting. The concern they raise, about rising operational costs, potentially squeezing their profitability if they're not careful, that really highlights why this kind of review is just so important.
The conversation then pivots to potential solutions, and they start by looking at negotiating better deals with their vendors. Things like discounts for buying in bulk or maybe signing longer-term contracts. It's about seeking efficiencies in their external spending first.
And the suggestion to explore possible bulk purchasing agreements with the procurement department, that shows a good understanding of how different internal teams can actually work together to achieve those cost savings.
They then touch on, well, the sensitive topic of optimizing salaries or maybe even streamlining headcount, acknowledging right up front that it's delicate territory. This shows a real awareness of the human impact of cost management, doesn't it?
It really does. And the decision to first explore other avenues for efficiency, like automating repetitive tasks, before even considering changes to headcount, that's a really thoughtful approach, I think. It prioritizes leveraging technology and process improvement first.
And they're not just throwing out the idea of automation either. They recognize it often requires an initial investment. They want to actually calculate the potential return on that investment before they finalize any budget proposals. That data-driven mindset is just so critical.
Yeah, gathering concrete data on the tools available, estimating the implementation expenses, that just demonstrates thoroughness. And the subsequent decision, weighing whether the potential benefits truly outweigh the risks, that's just a logical and, responsible next step.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting again. They stress the importance of setting aside funds to cover unexpected issues, what they call a contingency fund. They even suggest allocating a fixed percentage, maybe like 5% of their overall budget for this.
That kind of contingency allocation, it's a hallmark of prudent financial planning, right? But they also make a very wise decision to first confirm their final revenue forecasts before they actually commit to that specific contingency figure. So they request updated sales predictions from the marketing team.
Right, refining their expense allocations based on the most accurate projections they can get. That's a really crucial step in creating a budget that's both realistic and effective. And the urgency they express, about finalizing the entire budget framework by Friday to meet an executive deadline, that really underscores how time-sensitive these processes often are.
Definitely. Organizing all the relevant data, drafting a comprehensive report that clearly outlines everything, and then scheduling a brief meeting to review it all before submission. That ensures accuracy and that everyone is, on the same page.
So what's the big picture here? The key takeaway from this conversation, for you, the listener, is the importance of having a structured, methodical approach to managing costs. It's about balancing those immediate financial concerns with strategies for long-term efficiency and, crucially, always building in a buffer for the unexpected through that contingency planning.
Okay, our third conversation shifts gears now into the world of marketing. Specifically, they're revisiting the planned marketing approach for a new product launch. The initial challenge is just making sure they have the most effective strategy to get this product noticed.
And they immediately start thinking about reaching a broader range of potential customers, exploring the power of social media influencers. It's all about reaching new and relevant audiences where they already are, right?
Exactly. And the specific focus on using influencers to boost brand awareness, particularly among younger consumers, that demonstrates a very targeted approach to a specific demographic. It's quite focused.
They also consider partnering with established experts in their industry, maybe collaborating on thought leadership content. This sort of dual strategy aims to build credibility among professionals, while also tapping into the reach of social media for that wider awareness.
The decision to design a dual marketing campaign targeting both segments simultaneously is, it's ambitious, but potentially very effective. However, they also raise a really critical point about the need to carefully coordinate their messaging so they don't inadvertently, dilute their overall brand identity.
Exactly. Maintaining brand consistency is highlighted as absolutely crucial, which leads them to the idea of establishing clear guidelines that all content creators, all the influencers, will need to follow. This helps ensure a unified, coherent message across all the different channels they'll be using.
Right. The conversation then turns to how they'll allocate their budget, specifically considering a separate budget for paid digital ads. And importantly, they emphasize the need to actually evaluate their conversion rates. How many people are taking the desired action after seeing an ad before they commit to heavily investing in those paid ads. It's a smart, data-driven approach.
Yeah, getting concrete data from their analytics team on like the cost per acquisition through these different channels, it's a really smart move before they pour significant resources into paid advertising. They see a hybrid plan, one balancing both organic, unpaid, and paid strategies as maybe the most effective way to quickly maximize their overall market reach.
They also discuss incorporating email marketing to their existing subscriber base and the crucial step of segmenting those mailing lists based on people's interests. That way they can send more personalized, more relevant messages about the new product.
The next logical steps they outline are, well, presenting this multi-channel strategy proposal to upper management, and then preparing detailed creative briefs for each channel they plan to use, just to ensure that consistent branding we talked about earlier.
And they recognize that getting executive approval might very well hinge on them presenting a solid estimate of the return on investment, that ROI we keep mentioning. So they know they need to come prepared with thorough projections, market penetration, expected conversion rates, and the resulting revenue generation, all that good stuff.
They wrap up by scheduling a final review meeting to go over all the metrics and the creative concepts once they're fully fleshed out. And they have this goal of completing all these steps within a pretty tight 2-week time frame so they can stay ahead of their competitors. It's a proactive approach, really focused on grabbing that early market share.
What's fascinating here is the really sophisticated way they're thinking about marketing. It's not just a broad brush approach, is it? They're combining different channels strategically, tailoring messages to diverse audiences, and placing a strong emphasis on making decisions based on data, while always safeguarding their brand's consistency.
Let's move on to our fourth conversation. This one centers on how to enhance leadership development initiatives within the company. The main challenge they're tackling here is how to improve the skills and overall effectiveness of their leaders.
Right. They quickly identify the key areas where they see a need for improvement. Things like communication skills, conflict resolution abilities, and techniques for motivating their teams. These are really foundational skills for anyone in a leadership role, aren't they?
Absolutely. And the fact that they're considering both bringing in external workshop facilitators and maybe hiring external coaches shows a willingness to explore different types of expertise. And the idea of blending that external knowledge with the best practices that already exist within their own company, well, that just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does. And the smart move to first pilot a small-scale leadership program and then expand it based on the results they see, that allows them to evaluate its effectiveness and make any necessary adjustments before they roll it out more widely. It's a cautious, sensible approach.
They also emphasize the importance of getting feedback from their employees about where they currently see leadership gaps. They specifically note that a recent engagement survey highlighted communication as an area needing attention. This ensures they're focusing their development efforts on real needs within the organization, not just guessing.
Definitely. And integrating interactive sessions into their training, things like role-playing exercises, simulations to give leaders practical experience in areas like active listening and giving constructive feedback. That really underscores the importance of applying these skills in, real-world scenarios. It's not just theory.
They also recognize that a one-off training session isn't really enough, right? They see they need a follow-up mechanism, maybe ongoing coaching, or a peer mentoring program. This kind of sustained support is just so crucial for fostering long-term changes in behavior.
The specific proposal of a 3-month leadership development track, which would include workshops combined with monthly coaching sessions, provides a nice structured framework for growth. And the practical next steps they consider are things like coordinating everyone's schedules and securing the necessary resources of, training venues, materials, all that.
Okay, here's where they start thinking about the impact and how to measure it. They discuss tracking key performance indicators, things like staff retention rates, maybe project success rates, as a way to actually demonstrate the value of the leadership program and, well, justify further investment.
And presenting a comprehensive report to the executive board after they've gathered some initial results helps to build that broader organizational support, especially if they can showcase tangible improvements across different departments. Proof is in the pudding, right?
Exactly. They wrap up by setting the goal of finalizing all the program details and beginning the actual implementation in the following month. The overarching aim here is clearly to develop strong leaders who can really drive the company's long-term growth. They understand that effective leadership is what cultivates a positive company culture and really sparks innovation.
Yeah, the key takeaway here is a really thoughtful, phased approach to leadership development. It prioritizes getting feedback from employees, providing opportunities for practical application of skills, and rigorously measuring the results. It's quite comprehensive.
Our fifth conversation delves into a really common workplace dynamic, that tension that can sometimes arise between, say, engineering and sales teams. The central challenge they're addressing is how to resolve this interdepartmental friction.
Right, and the conversation immediately identifies a very typical root cause of this kind of tension. Those disagreements that pop up when the sales team makes promises to clients, maybe about product features or delivery timelines, that the engineering team then sees as, well, technically infeasible or just unrealistic.
Been there. The main solution they propose is organizing a joint meeting. Get representatives from both teams together to clarify expectations, really understand each other's perspectives, and the suggestion of bringing in a neutral facilitator to mediate the discussion. That's a smart way to encourage more open, more honest communication, I think.
Definitely. Defining very clear boundaries right from the start regarding what sales can realistically commit to and what are achievable development timelines, that's just crucial for preventing these kinds of misunderstandings from happening again and again. Their emphasis on having a transparent process for this is really key to building trust.
They also highlight the importance of getting input from the heads of both departments. They note they've received feedback about, inadequate communication, people feeling like they're working under rushed deadlines all the time. Getting this kind of 360-degree view helps to uncover the underlying issues that are actually fueling the tension.
Mhm. The proposal of creating a unified project plan, one that clearly outlines responsibilities, key milestone reviews, the necessary approval steps, that's a good way to encourage more regular check-ins and just make it easier to make adjustments when problems inevitably arise.
Yeah.
Because they will.
Right. The fundamental goal here seems to be making sure that neither team feels overburdened or, maybe worse, misled about what can realistically be delivered. They recognize that balanced workloads and honest timelines are essential for building trust and ultimately reducing that internal conflict.
Exactly. And the idea of implementing a shared dashboard that both teams can access, track project progress, flag potential issues, that provides real-time visibility for everyone involved and helps them address concerns proactively, not reactively.
They also suggest holding regular feedback sessions, maybe monthly, as a way to maintain a more harmonious working relationship and catch any new difficulties early before they escalate into bigger problems. Consistent communication really is the underlying principle here, isn't it?
It absolutely is. The practical next steps they outline are scheduling that initial meeting, inviting key stakeholders from both engineering and sales, and preparing a focused agenda that emphasizes collaboration, building mutual understanding, and, importantly, de-escalating any existing conflict.
And the fact that they're even considering reaching out to their HR department for additional resources on conflict resolution shows a really comprehensive approach.
Yeah.
Especially if HR has maybe successfully handled similar cross-functional disagreements in the past. Leverage that experience.
For sure. Ultimately, they understand that having a positive, collaborative team dynamic has a significant impact on the company's overall productivity and even on customer satisfaction.
Right. When internal operations are smooth, it reflects well externally.
Couldn't agree more. The conversation wraps up with them finalizing the details for that initial meeting and really emphasizing the essential role that open, honest communication will play in working towards a constructive resolution that benefits everyone involved. So the key takeaway for you, the listener, is that a proactive and communicative approach is absolutely essential when resolving conflict between different departments. It really boils down to establishing clear expectations and ensuring everyone has shared visibility into what's happening.
Okay, our sixth conversation shifts our focus to the, increasingly important topic of managing remote teams effectively. The central challenge they're tackling is the need to develop a more robust strategy for collaboration and productivity when your team members are geographically dispersed.
Yeah, this is a big one now. The conversation immediately addresses one of the most significant hurdles of remote work, the complexities of coordinating across different time zones that can often lead to difficulties with project deadlines and just general communication flow.
Definitely. The solution they propose is establishing standardized communication windows, specific blocks of time when everyone is expected to be available for live discussions for that real-time collaboration. But they also wisely recognize the need to have clear protocols for documenting decisions and progress for those times when team members are working asynchronously. You need both.
Absolutely. The suggestion to implement a dedicated task management software platform, something that can track deliverables, send automated notifications about deadlines or updates, that really highlights the importance of having a centralized digital hub. It streamlines information flow, especially when teams are spread out.
They also emphasize the critical need to actively encourage virtual team-building activities, things like maybe casual online gatherings or even shared interest groups. Those can go a long way in strengthening the interpersonal relationships within a remote team that might otherwise feel a bit disconnected, right?
Totally. Building that social fabric is important. And the idea of managers hosting brief daily check-in meetings with their remote teams is proposed as a way to ensure any immediate issues or roadblocks can be addressed quickly. They also suggest coordinating these check-ins around core working hours to try and accommodate everyone's different time zones as much as possible.
Maintaining that balance between flexibility and consistency is seen as absolutely crucial for making remote employees feel both engaged and well supported. The underlying principle seems to be that no remote worker should ever feel isolated or, uncertain about what their priorities are.
Right. The conversation then delves into the need for clear guidelines on, say, video conference etiquette and general best practices for distributed teams. They even mention the idea of revising their existing company manual to reflect the new digital tools they're using, emphasizing things like concise meeting agendas and participating respectfully in virtual discussions. Basic stuff, but important.
And making sure that updated manual is then shared company-wide is a key step, ensuring everyone's on the same page regarding these expectations. They also propose conducting quarterly surveys to actively gather feedback from their remote teams about any challenges they're facing with collaboration. That underscores the importance of continuous improvement in their remote work strategy. They're learning as they go.
Exactly. The next logical steps they outline are finalizing all these initiatives and then presenting them to both HR and upper management to get that crucial buy-in and approval. Compiling all their proposals into a cohesive document is a practical step towards securing that approval in a more formal meeting setting.
Ultimately, they understand that having a well-structured strategy for remote collaboration isn't just a nice to have. It's essential for elevating both productivity and overall employee satisfaction. Prioritizing remote inclusivity allows them to tap into a broader talent pool and keep their operations running efficiently.
And finally, they even consider the very practical aspect of upgrading their video conferencing systems. Ensure stable connections, a better overall user experience, recognizing that having high-quality technical infrastructure can significantly reduce frustrations for remote workers. Little things matter.
True. So, the key takeaway for you is that a comprehensive strategy for managing remote work needs to strike that careful balance. You need structured communication protocols, but also the flexibility that remote work offers. And it absolutely needs to prioritize maintaining team cohesion and the overall well-being of your remote employees.
Okay, our seventh conversation turns its attention to the crucial task of refining sales projections for the upcoming quarter. This is specifically in response to some recent shifts they've observed in the market. So the core challenge is adjusting their forecasts to accurately reflect the current economic landscape.
Right. The conversation kicks off by noting the increased level of competition they're facing, which immediately leads them to consider, well, maybe making some adjustments to their pricing strategy. But they're also very mindful of the need to protect their profit margins naturally.
Yeah, you can't just slash prices. The suggestion to explore offering product bundles or perhaps implementing loyalty incentives instead of simply cutting prices directly, that demonstrates a more sophisticated approach. These value-added strategies can help them generate extra revenue while still maintaining their brand's perceived value and positioning in the market.
They emphasize the importance of gathering more detailed market intelligence before they make any significant changes to their pricing. This means closely analyzing what competitors are doing, actively trying to gauge current customer sentiment. It's all about making those data-informed decisions, isn't it?
Absolutely. And factoring in any potential seasonal fluctuations in demand is also highlighted as a critical element for accurate forecasting. They also discuss the value of incorporating flexible scenarios into their forecast, essentially creating different versions based on various assumptions about the market. That allows for better preparedness no matter what happens.
Collaborating closely with their research team to compile all the relevant consumer surveys and industry reports they can find. That's seen as a key step in gathering the necessary market insights to conduct a truly comprehensive analysis. You need the data.
Right. Once they have that information, the next step they plan is to develop a dynamic forecasting model that they can then present to the executive team for review. And they specifically intend to show both conservative and optimistic forecasts just to provide a more complete picture and aid in strategic decision making. Give them options.
That makes sense. They clearly understand that executives generally prefer to see multiple perspectives, especially when there's economic uncertainty in the air. This level of transparency helps them to more thoroughly understand the potential risks and opportunities that lie ahead.
Definitely. They then stress the vital importance of coordinating with their operations team. Make sure that their production capacity will actually align with the projected demand in their sales forecasts, especially considering any potential constraints in their supply chain. Can't sell what you can't make.
True. And coordinating with their procurement and logistics departments to double-check lead times for materials and their current inventory buffers is also crucial. This helps them avoid the pitfalls of, over-promising to customers and then disappointing them with delayed deliveries. Nobody wants that.
No. The conversation concludes with them scheduling a cross-departmental meeting to take place after they've finalized their initial sales estimates, just to ensure that everyone across the organization is aligned and on the same page.
So the key takeaway here is the importance of having a sophisticated and adaptable approach to sales forecasting. It needs to really take into account the current realities of the market, explore various potential scenarios, and ensure that there's clear alignment across all the relevant departments within the company. It's a team effort.
It really is. Okay, our eighth conversation tackles the crucial need to develop a solid launch roadmap for a new product. The initial challenge is just creating a comprehensive, well-thought-out plan for a successful entry into the market.
Right. The conversation immediately delves into that strategic decision. Do we go for a phased product launch, maybe region by region, or do we do an immediate nationwide launch? They see a phased approach as advantageous, right, for testing consumer response in a more controlled way, optimizing strategies before a full-scale rollout.
Exactly. It also lets them identify and fix any technical glitches or, marketing missteps early on before they become bigger problems. And the idea of strategically involving key influencers to generate that initial buzz and excitement during a pilot launch, that's seen as a targeted way to drive early adoption and also just validate the product's appeal.
They emphasize the absolute importance of confirming that all the essential departments, manufacturing, logistics, customer support, are fully prepared for the launch. Prevent any potential bottlenecks. This means ensuring each department has a clear timeline, the necessary resources allocated, and importantly, well-defined contingency plans in place. What if something goes wrong?
Good point. They also consider the budget they have available for things like in-store demos or interactive displays at trade shows. They even look at potentially reallocating leftover funds from other marketing initiatives to these more experiential forms of promotion. They recognize that hands-on demos can be a powerful way to differentiate their product, create a more memorable engagement with potential customers.
And ensuring their sales teams are thoroughly trained, equipped to articulate the product's key benefits with confidence. That's highlighted as absolutely crucial. They discuss the now for comprehensive product knowledge sessions, internal workshops, get them ready to effectively answer customer questions and address any concerns.
Definitely. The overall plan includes finalizing a clear, detailed rollout schedule with specific checkpoints for gathering feedback and monitoring key performance metrics. This lets them regularly evaluate the launch's progress, refine their messaging as needed, and promptly address any logistical hiccups that might pop up along the way.
They also plan to request weekly progress reports from all the different teams involved in the launch, and importantly, to standardize the reporting formats. That makes it easier to quickly track key metrics and identify any potential risks early on. Keep it consistent.
Right. And the importance of carefully analyzing the data they gather after the pilot phase, before proceeding with the full national release. That just underscores their commitment to a data-driven approach. It helps minimize the chances of making costly mistakes and allows them to optimize their strategy for maximum market impact.
They also consider coordinating with their PR team to secure an official announcement in relevant industry publications. That can significantly enhance the product's credibility and ensure wider media coverage. Get the word out through trusted channels.
For sure. The conversation concludes with them emphasizing the need to consolidate all these elements into a cohesive, comprehensive launch plan and to schedule a final review meeting. Ensure everyone is aligned before they begin that methodical execution of each phase for a successful product debut.
So the key takeaway for you is that launching a new product successfully requires a really detailed step-by-step approach. It's about thorough testing, often in a controlled environment first, seamless coordination across all departments involved, and strategically leveraging a variety of different marketing tactics. It's complex.
It is. Okay, our ninth conversation focuses on a common pain point in many organizations: streamlining the employee performance review process. The central challenge they're addressing is how to make this process more efficient and, importantly, clearer for everyone involved. Less mystery, more clarity.
Right. The conversation immediately acknowledges that their current method feels, well, cumbersome, and that managers often struggle with making objective evaluations, which can lead to a sense of subjectivity in the whole process.
Yeah, nobody likes that. The primary solution they propose is incorporating more measurable objectives and tangible performance indicators into the review process. This shift towards more concrete metrics is really aimed at reducing ambiguity and making evaluations more data-driven, less based on feelings.
They also suggest moving away from purely annual evaluations to implementing more frequent, maybe quarterly checkpoints. The idea here is that more timely feedback could significantly boost employee engagement and provide more opportunities for course correction throughout the year, not just once at the end.
That makes sense. They explore the possibility of using a dedicated software platform to automate aspects of the process, things like goal setting, sending reminders about progress, tracking performance data. They note that automation could streamline many of the repetitive admin tasks and, importantly, give managers real-time insights into their team's performance.
The importance of providing employees with greater transparency regarding their performance status throughout the year is also highlighted. They believe that consistent, constructive feedback is crucial for fostering professional growth and maintaining motivation. People want to know where they stand.
Absolutely. They also discuss the need to provide better training for their managers, how to deliver constructive criticism effectively, how to set clear and objective performance goals for their team members. This aims to ensure more unbiased evaluations and more respectful communication during the review process itself. It's a skill.
It really is. The underlying understanding is that a well-structured and fair performance review process can significantly improve overall team morale. They also emphasize the importance of making sure the company culture genuinely supports continuous improvement and the recognition of employee contributions. It has to be baked in.
Right. The practical steps they outline include working closely with HR to design new review templates that incorporate those clear metrics and relevant competencies. They also plan to gather feedback from different departments on these new templates to ensure they're practical and effective in the real world.
And they consider incorporating peer evaluations, or maybe 360-degree feedback in some cases, while being very mindful of ensuring anonymity and confidentiality to encourage honest, useful input. That's always tricky, but potentially valuable.
Very true. The plan is to pilot these proposed changes with a small group first, then present the outcomes and feedback to executive leadership for broader adoption. They intend to track the results of the pilot, gather more feedback, make adjustments before a full company-wide rollout, aiming to implement the revised process next quarter.
Okay, so the key takeaway for you is that modern performance reviews should really focus on being more objective, more frequent, and ultimately more supportive of employee growth. And that's achieved through using clear, measurable metrics, coupled with ensuring managers are well-trained and providing effective, constructive feedback.
Exactly. Our 10th conversation tackles the critical area of improving the client onboarding process. The main challenge they're looking to solve is reducing that initial confusion and potential frustration that new clients sometimes experience when they first start working with the company. First impressions matter.
They really do. The conversation immediately pinpoints the common issues. New clients often feel overwhelmed by the sheer amount of documentation they receive, and they're unclear about who their main points of contact within the company are. Who do I call?
Yeah, that's a classic problem. The primary solution they propose is creating a simple, user-friendly welcome packet. This packet would clearly outline key timelines, the client's responsibilities, the main communication channels for different needs. The goal is to give clients a quick understanding of what to expect, thereby reducing those initial inquiries.
They also suggest assigning a dedicated account manager to each new client right from the start. Having that single point of contact helps build trust, and it also streamlines the process for resolving any issues or answering questions that might pop up during the initial setup. Makes life easier for the client.
Definitely. The idea of providing a brief tutorial or maybe a video walkthrough for any complex platforms or processes is explored as a way to significantly reduce the amount of direct training required and empower clients to become more self-sufficient more quickly. Help them help themselves.
They recognize the importance of gathering early feedback from new clients about their onboarding experience. This is seen as a way to continuously adapt and improve their onboarding materials and processes, ensuring they remain relevant and effective over time. It's an iterative process.
It has to be. They also consider automating certain steps in the onboarding process, like sending personalized progress updates via email. This not only keeps clients informed, but also frees up their team to focus on more complex or individualized support needs. Use automation smartly.
Incorporating a simple checklist for clients to track their progress through the various onboarding milestones is another idea they discuss. This gives clients visibility, a sense of progress, and can be reassuring as they move through those initial stages.
And they suggest scheduling a kickoff call with the client once they've completed their initial checklist. This ensures everyone is on the same page and formally aligns expectations for the ongoing relationship. Start things off right.
Right. The practical steps they plan to take include drafting an outline for the revised onboarding flow and then circulating it internally for input, especially getting feedback from their customer support team, who are often on the front lines with new clients.
Good idea. They also consider implementing a post-onboarding survey to measure overall client satisfaction with the initial experience and to identify any remaining pain points that need addressing. Close the loop.
Their aim is to finalize all the details and materials for the improved onboarding process within about 2 weeks, so they can launch it to new clients starting next month. They clearly understand that creating a smooth, positive onboarding experience is crucial for fostering long-term client loyalty and ultimately reducing churn. Keep those clients happy from day one.
Absolutely. The key takeaway for you here is that a truly effective client onboarding process needs to be deeply customer-centric. It prioritizes clarity, proactive support, and a real commitment to continuous improvement based on direct client feedback.
Okay, let's move to conversation 11. This one's about revisiting the strategy for expanding into emerging international markets, a big topic. The challenge is figuring out how to approach this kind of expansion effectively.
Yeah, it's complex. They start by trying to identify promising regions that also have, well, manageable risks. Southeast Asia gets mentioned, but they immediately stress the need to adapt products for cultural nuances. Localization is key. Language, payment methods, regulations. You can't just copy-paste.
So true. Coordinating with local partners is seen as crucial, leveraging their distribution networks, their understanding of consumer behaviors. It helps reduce those entry barriers significantly. You need boots on the ground, people who know the market.
Exactly. And adjusting pricing strategies to match local purchasing power is another essential consideration, along with exploring e-commerce platforms for broader reach without necessarily needing heavy physical infrastructure investment, which minimizes capital expenditure upfront.
But even with e-commerce, they acknowledge needing a solid logistics plan, right? Managing shipping and, importantly, returns. That can be complex internationally. And of course, complying with all the import regulations and tariffs requires thorough research beforehand. No shortcuts there.
None at all. They also talk about analyzing local competitors to position their product effectively. Differentiation is crucial, especially in a new market. And they propose establishing a pilot region first to validate their entire approach before attempting to scale gradually. It's a cautious expansion strategy to mitigate risk.
Makes sense? Test the waters first. So the next step is preparing a comprehensive plan covering market analysis, potential partnerships, regulations, all of it. Then reviewing that proposal and presenting it to the executive board for approval.
And they wisely check if the finance department can estimate potential returns for investors. Having robust financial forecasting really helps secure the necessary budget and backing for such a major initiative.
The conversation ends with scheduling a meeting to finalize all the details and align everyone on the objectives before moving forward.
So the big takeaway here is the need for a strategic and phased approach to international expansion. It really emphasizes local adaptation, building strong partnerships, and careful risk mitigation every step of the way.
Right. Conversation 12 focuses on developing a more systematic approach to managing key suppliers. The challenge: inconsistent quality and delayed shipments are causing problems.
Yeah, supply chain issues are always critical. Their first step is establishing clear performance metrics, things like on-time delivery rates, defect rates, supplier responsiveness. You need objective measures.
And conducting regular supplier audits to ensure compliance with standards and, crucially, communicating those expectations clearly up front. They also consider negotiating service-level agreements, SLAs, for critical components, maybe with contractual incentives or penalties tied to performance.
Diversifying the supply base is also discussed essentially, not putting all their eggs in one basket. But they recognize this adds complexity, so they suggest weighing that against the benefit of risk mitigation. Maybe categorizing items by criticality to decide how many suppliers they truly need for each.
That's smart. They plan to collect supplier data systematically and create a kind of scorecard reflecting performance trends over time. Based on that data, they can propose corrective actions, or if necessary, make changes to their partnerships.
Scheduling regular, maybe quarterly reviews with their top-tier suppliers is seen as key for proactive discussion and problem solving. They even explore the idea of strategic collaborations, things like co-development projects or shared cost initiatives, which can foster innovation and deeper partnerships.
The plan involves presenting this refined supplier strategy to both the operations and finance departments for alignment, and they need to check if the legal team can update contracts based on this improved framework.
The goal is to finalize the plan by the end of the month and start implementing the new program next quarter. So the takeaway is about adopting a structured approach to supplier management that really focuses on clear metrics, accountability, and building strategic, mutually beneficial partnerships.
Moving on to 13, accelerating sustainability efforts. The pressure is on, right? Evolving environmental regulations, stakeholder expectations. Companies need to step up.
Definitely. The challenge is how to do that effectively. They start with evaluation, assessing their current carbon footprint, waste management practices, resource usage, a comprehensive audit to reveal the key areas for improvement.
Then they consider concrete actions, maybe switching to renewable energy sources, adopting more efficient manufacturing processes. These can offer long-term savings and boost public image, so it's a win-win potentially.
Partnering with sustainability consultants is suggested for expert guidance, help prioritizing initiatives, setting realistic milestones. And they want each department to propose feasible, eco-friendly measures, getting that grassroots involvement.
Having a clear roadmap, timeline, and budget for these green projects is essential for structured planning and accountability. And they recognize the importance of developing marketing plans to highlight their environmental commitments, but stress the need to remain authentic. Real impact over greenwashing.
Absolutely. Publishing an annual sustainability report is mentioned as a way to showcase accountability and build trust. They also talk about collaborating with suppliers who share their environmental values and hold relevant certifications, strengthening their eco-friendly positioning across the entire supply chain.
They note that early compliance with regulations is often more cost-effective in the long run than waiting and facing penalties later. The final step is finalizing an action plan and beginning implementation soon.
So the takeaway is a holistic approach to sustainability. It involves thorough assessment, leveraging expert guidance, and involving all departments and ensuring transparent communication about their efforts and progress.
Conversation 14 revisits their digital transformation strategy. The challenge: how to stay competitive in a rapidly changing digital landscape.
Right. Constant evolution is key here. They identify improving their data analytics platform as a priority, enabling faster, more data-driven decisions. Robust analytics can uncover hidden trends and opportunities.
Transitioning outdated manual processes to automated systems is another focus, reducing errors, freeing up staff for more valuable work. They're also considering cloud-based solutions for better scalability and collaboration across teams.
Forming a dedicated digital task force is suggested to oversee these transformations, help prioritize initiatives, and keep things on track. They plan to identify some quick wins. First, early successes can build momentum and secure buy-in for more complex, longer-term transitions later.
Investing in employee training for the new tools and systems is recognized as absolutely essential. Skill development is critical for adoption and success, and they favor a phased rollout using pilot programs before going company-wide to reduce risk and refine deployments based on real user feedback.
The next steps involve gathering specific project proposals from different areas and defining budgets for each initiative. They're even considering allocating specific innovation funds for experimenting with emerging technologies like AI-driven analytics or advanced process automation. Keep an eye on the future.
Presenting these well-defined plans to the Executive Committee for endorsement is crucial for getting the necessary backing and resources to expedite decisions and implementation. They aim for a formal roadmap within 6 weeks, starting implementation next quarter.
The key takeaway here is a strategic and phased approach to digital transformation. It emphasizes leveraging data, embracing automation, ensuring employee readiness through training, and managing the process carefully with pilots and clear governance.
15 deals with strengthening the risk management framework. The challenge. Unforeseen issues have impacted past projects, hitting timelines and budgets. They need to get better at anticipating challenges.
A common problem. Their solution starts with proactive assessment, each department conducting a comprehensive risk assessment to identify potential vulnerabilities early on.
Then, categorization. They plan to categorize identified risks by likelihood and potential impact. This helps prioritize efforts, focusing on the most significant threats first. And for those high-priority risks, establishing clear contingency plans is essential. Things like having backup suppliers lined up or alternative workflows ready to go.
Implementing a centralized dashboard to track all identified risks and their current status provides transparency and allows for ongoing monitoring across the organization. Regular, periodic risk reviews are also planned to update assumptions and identify any new emerging risks. Things change.
Encouraging cross-department collaboration in risk management is seen as beneficial, sharing best practices, learning from each other's experiences. They plan to draft updated risk management guidelines and circulate them for feedback before finalizing a standard procedure for everyone to follow.
Checking for a budget specifically allocated for risk mitigation measures is important. This might involve setting aside contingency funds to address critical risks if they actually materialize. And they plan a company-wide workshop to explain the new protocols and clarify employee roles in managing risks effectively. Everyone plays a part.
They're aiming for full implementation by the next quarter. So the takeaway is a proactive, collaborative approach to risk management. It involves systematic assessment, clear categorization, robust planning, continuous monitoring, and company-wide engagement.
Right, 16 is about elevating corporate social responsibility, or CSR, initiatives. The goal is to have a greater positive impact on the community and enhance the company's reputation.
Right. They recognize that meaningful CSR boosts public perception and employee morale. So the first step is identifying causes that genuinely align with the company's core values, maybe education, healthcare, or environmental protection.
Forming a volunteer committee, perhaps employee-led, to organize events is suggested as a way to foster passion and direct involvement. They're also considering sponsoring practical initiatives like workshops or scholarships for local youth.
Partnering with reputable nonprofit organizations is seen as valuable for guidance, logistics, ensuring accountability, and achieving a broader reach than they might alone. Leverage existing expertise.
Tracking CSR progress annually and publishing an impact report is crucial for transparency and building trust with stakeholders. They need to set a budget, coordinate with finance, and aim for a balanced mix, not just monetary donations, but also active employee volunteer work.
Presenting the overall plan to the board for endorsement is a necessary step, and they want to encourage employees to suggest additional CSR ideas, making it an inclusive process that might reveal unique opportunities they hadn't considered.
The final steps are finalizing the strategy and rolling out the first initiative soon. The key takeaway is a values-driven and employee-involved approach to CSR, aiming for measurable impact and transparent reporting. It's about doing good and showing it.
Conversation 17 tackles strengthening the recruitment strategy. The challenge: attracting top talent in a really competitive industry. Always tough.
Very tough. Their approach involves refining their employer branding, how they present themselves to potential hires, and leveraging new channels to reach candidates. They need to showcase their company culture, potential career paths, and any innovative projects they're working on. Highlight those growth opportunities.
Optimizing the online application process is key, making it user-friendly, ensuring quick follow-up, simplifying forms, maybe automating status updates. A bad application experience can turn off great candidates.
Absolutely. Offering employee referral bonuses is a classic, often effective tactic. And partnering with universities or coding boot camps helps tap into early talent pipelines. They're also explicitly exploring diversity hiring initiatives to build a more inclusive and balanced workforce.
Updating job descriptions to emphasize that inclusive culture and highlight benefits is important. And establishing a clear, efficient timeline for interviews and ensuring prompt decision-making is crucial. Speed matters in a competitive market.
Providing robust onboarding and mentorship programs isn't just about recruitment, but it helps with retention, which is closely linked. They're also considering offering flexible working arrangements or remote options, which are increasingly expected by top talent.
Gathering feedback from recent hires on how to improve the recruitment experience provides valuable insights for continuous improvement. And tracking metrics like applicant quality and hiring speed allows for data-driven evaluation of their strategy's effectiveness.
So the takeaway is a multifaceted recruitment strategy. It focuses on strong employer branding, a positive candidate experience, tapping into diverse talent pools, and maintaining efficient, data-informed processes.
18 is about improving how data is presented to executives. The challenge: making complex information clear and easy to grasp quickly for busy decision makers.
Right, executives need the highlights fast. The aim is standardized dashboards featuring key metrics, clear trend graphs, and brief, concise explanations. Visual representations are key.
They're checking for a suitable business intelligence tool that could automate real-time reporting updates and offer customizable dashboards. It's seen as critical for executives to receive regular, perhaps weekly, snapshots that highlight urgent issues and key achievements.
They also want to enable drill-down features so executives can explore more detail if they need to, without being overwhelmed initially.
They plan to configure a prototype dashboard first and gather feedback from the executives themselves. Confirming the most relevant KPIs with department heads is also crucial to ensure the dashboard reflects business priorities accurately.
Everything needs to be intuitive. Requiring minimal training, user-friendly design is paramount. The goal is to roll this out company-wide, promoting transparency and ensuring everyone has consistent access to vital metrics, which helps align the entire organization.
They also consider integrating alerts for abnormal data spikes or drops, enabling proactive notification of potential issues or significant wins.
The key takeaway is a focus on clear, visual, and accessible data presentation that truly empowers effective and timely executive decision-making. Cut through the noise.
19 looks at expanding internal training programs, covering both technical and soft skills. The challenge is fostering continuous learning to improve performance across the board.
Yeah, upskilling is vital. They're checking if their current training materials are comprehensive enough or if they need a more formal framework like a structured curriculum with clear progression paths, maybe tiered modules from basic to expert levels.
Incorporating e-learning platforms is considered for flexibility, allowing employees to access digital courses on their own schedules. Including interactive elements like quizzes and simulations is important for engagement, making learning less passive.
Consulting department heads to identify priority topics ensures the training is targeted and yields tangible benefits for the business. They also plan to track participation and completion rates, perhaps rewarding employees for engaging with the training, which encourages involvement.
Inviting external experts occasionally can bring fresh perspectives and specialized knowledge. Allocating a dedicated budget is necessary for things like platform subscriptions or instructor fees, and periodic evaluations are planned to measure the training's effectiveness and gather feedback for ongoing improvement, that iterative approach again.
They also consider offering cross-functional training sessions to enhance collaboration, knowledge sharing, and synergy between different teams. The aim is to kick off the upgraded program soon with some pilot sessions.
So the takeaway is a strategic approach to internal training. It combines structured learning paths with flexibility, emphasizes engagement through interactivity, relies on feedback for continuous improvement, and ensures relevance by consulting with departments.
And finally, Conversation 20, conducting the annual strategy review. The challenge is doing this comprehensively, especially given shifted market conditions. It's about setting the direction for the future.
A big one to end on. Each division is expected to present its updated objectives and propose new initiatives. A key focus is identifying potential overlap or synergies between departments to improve efficiency and collaboration.
They stress focusing on the long-term vision, not just short-term quarterly targets. It's about balancing immediate wins with sustainable growth. Reviewing data on emerging trends or potentially disruptive technologies is crucial for anticipating future challenges and opportunities.
They're also reviewing the organizational structure itself, asking if it's fit for future demands. This might involve looking at streamlined reporting lines or creating more agile teams. Exploring strategic partnerships or even acquisitions is on the table as ways to expand capabilities or widen their customer base.
Drafting a clear agenda for the review is key, covering market analysis, resource allocation decisions, and potential restructuring options. Coordinating with department heads beforehand ensures they come prepared with the necessary data and well-thought-out proposals.
Revisiting the company's mission statement is also mentioned, making sure it still resonates and accurately guides their strategic direction. The ultimate output should be a unified strategy document presented to senior leadership, which will guide decision-making throughout the year.
Checking if finance can run scenario analyses based on different growth or investment levels provides valuable flexibility. Presenting multiple financial models helps leadership understand the implications of various strategic choices. They aim to finalize the revised strategy within about 6 weeks, allowing ample time for review and refinement. Managing that timeline and ensuring regular check-ins are crucial.
So the final takeaway is about a thorough and forward-thinking approach to strategic planning. It involves all levels of the organization, considers various future scenarios, and aims to create a clear, actionable roadmap for sustainable success.
Phew, quite a range of topics covered there.
Absolutely. So just to recap, this deep dive has really uncovered a wealth of practical strategies. We've touched on project management, financial oversight, marketing innovation, leadership development, conflict resolution, managing remote teams effectively.
Sales forecasting, product launching, performance reviews, client onboarding, international expansion, supplier management, sustainability efforts, digital transformation, risk management.
Corporate social responsibility, talent acquisition, executive data presentation, internal training, and finally, strategic planning. It's quite the list.
It really is. The main point for you, the listener, is that you've now got this concentrated dose of how business professionals actually navigate a really wide array of challenges. Think about how these approaches, these mindsets, could be adapted to your own work, your own areas of interest.
Exactly. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. In today's rapidly evolving business landscape, that continuous learning and adaptation we saw running through all these conversations, well, it's paramount, isn't it? So perhaps consider which of these areas we discussed today presents the biggest opportunity for you to explore further and really deepen your understanding, something to mull over.